So we're live. We will see how we do with Facebook coming on. But while we're waiting for that, Joanne, why don't you tell us how your run was this morning?
See, the thing is, Heather, you can say that every week for the rest of our lives, and I will laugh every time.
Because I just had to. I didn't tell you that was coming because I just knew you would appreciate it.
But you know what that'll do? One day I actually will wake up and run and take a photo of it just to show you, just to spite you.
And I will, have a cardiac event when you show me the picture. Hey, speaking of pictures, I understand that if you are uncomfortable about uploading your pictures because of tracking, you can take a screenshot of the picture and upload that, and that will strip out the metadata on it. Check that with somebody who knows more about photographs than I do, but that it certainly sounds plausible. So anyway,
photo and then delete it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that worries me about this moment, honestly, as a historian, is that you and I both live on accounts of the moments in our past that were pivotal moments. And we're just not going to have it. I put on social media the other day that I wish people would write stuff down, preferably on cotton paper.
I've been telling people to collect evidence, to just do whatever. I got to turn off comments because you guys, I end up wanting to talk to you all. Okay. I've been telling people to write things down, to save things, for that very reason. And not just because we need evidence, but I keep thinking back to the main character of the last book I wrote, who was thinking a lot about the history of his moment. And at one point he says in his diary, so it's always best when people say things to themselves, not trying to be important. He says, it's great that I can look at like the diaries of famous people in the past, but if we ever really want to understand what happened, I need normal people to write diaries. I need normal people to put evidence down. I need them to explain to me how it feels and what's going on. And of course, to me, he was that normal person, but that's right on the nose.
Well, there's once again, popular opinion, but let's get into that. But I think we have to start where the obvious news of the day is taking us. No kings.
No kings.
No kings. And what I got up this morning thinking about was that quote, and you'll tell me which dude it was, who said that the true revolution in the wasn't the United States then. The true revolution in America was in the people's minds, and that the Revolutionary War just brought that into reality. Who was that? And let's dig in a little bit about that.
Yeah, you mentioned that just before we went on, and I looked it up. So let me quote, it's John Adams, and there are a couple sentences. That's the top one, but I want to mention one or two more because they're so on target. Okay, the sentence you're thinking of, Heather, is, what do we mean by the American Revolution? Do we mean the American War? The revolution was effected before the war commenced. The revolution was in the minds and hearts of the people. And then he goes on. But when they saw those in power, the king and others, renouncing all the principles of authority and bent on the destruction of all the securities of their lives, liberties, and properties, they thought it was their duty to pray for the Continental Congress and all the 13 state Congresses. This radical change in the principles, opinions, sentiments, and affection of the people was the real American Revolution.
A freaking man, And I was thinking about that because that's what I feel like we're doing and have been doing now for even more than months, years, because I think, and my comparison is not the revolution, it's the 1850s, is that, people generally are just getting on with their lives. You think of Paul Revere, his freaking wife died in the middle of all this, and he had to find a new wife. While everything else is going on, he's courting somebody and burying somebody and courting somebody else. You're mostly just getting on with your life, and you don't necessarily pay a lot of attention to what's going on in politics if it's not apparently affecting your life.
We all have lives to live, right? And we're living them. And
and then all of a sudden you start to think, hey, wait, that's not the way it should be. I know for me, it was the George W. Bush signing statements. But obviously, for a lot of people, it's taken a lot. And you look around us now, and I was playing the other day and I thought, if I were going to write a piece that were just about what is going right with the United States right now, it would be a very short piece.
About what is going right.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
would, but one
in
of
the government, I mean, there's a lot going right in the
I,
country.
I was about
But
to say today is what's going right, but no, in the government, that's a whole different story for sure. But to go to that second half of it, today is what's going right, you know, and this is in response. And I realize I keep getting revved up in a bad way over all of the people who are like, you know, this doesn't matter, and it's people on the left, right? This is a parade, you stupid people. What are you doing? You're dressing up in costumes like you're a bunch of crazy people, blah blah blah. And what I keep saying to that is a version of what you just said. How do you build a movement? How do you energize people? How do you wake them up to see what's going on around them? How do you pull people out of their everyday life? How do you show that there's a community of people who agree with you, if that's your belief? How do you do all of that without a day like today? Of course, today is not going to change things massively, but it will change the mindset and understandings and beliefs and hope of people, I think, dramatically. That's how you begin to wake people up.
well, and Ezra Levin, who's one of the co-directors of Indivisible, who organized this No King's Day, says that, you know, the exact same thing. It's not going to change everything today, but as it continues to grow and illustrates to people where the momentum is, that changes the way a society works. And I did a thing yesterday with Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona, and he was in the Marines, and he said something that I actually wrote down. He said the Marine creed is one of them is hesitation kills, momentum wins the day. And I thought that was, it reminded me a lot of what you and I talk about, because the momentum in this administration, or in this period in American history, is not with the administration. The momentum is with the people. And that actually sort of made it easier for me to say, okay, I'm going to take the next step, because I got to keep the momentum going. And
Right.
the other thing you said that I thought was really interesting is, if you are not moving forward, you should be communicating. It's not like you should run into a bad situation, of course, as a Marine or otherwise, but that if you are not moving forward, you don't just sit down and wait for something to happen. You communicate with people about what the next forward step is. And I thought that's part of momentum too. I thought that was great.
That's part of momentum, that's encouraging it, that's increasing it. I think that's great as well. That all of these things, you know, I guess I'm feeling not exactly defensive, but I guess irritated, irked at people who are denouncing what's going on today. Because if the best evidence of the fact that it's means something in the minds and hearts of people is the degree to which the current regime is throwing out lies about it to discourage people from going, why would they even care if they weren't afraid of what the impact of the sight and vision and meaning and implications of a day like today are going to be?
So I actually think that's really interesting, because it has come out increasingly the degree to which this administration is fabricating videos, photographs, and certainly lying about the world around us. And I was thinking about that, because that kind of stuff really flew at least 10 years ago, because we weren't really ready for it or really accustomed to it.
That's it.
And I wonder, as a larger picture of American democracy, if what we are seeing, and this is really purely just wondering, so I wonder what you think about it, is a new kind, or rather perhaps a very old kind of governance, where people are much more skeptical of what the leaders hand down and are saying, hey, just a minute here, that's not real. Here's my life, and my life is real, and I'm going to reach out to other people like me, and we're going to change the circumstances of our lives on the ground, unlike the sort of, I don't want to smear Star Wars, but the sort of visuals that say this is what's happening in your country, and people are like, no, it's not. It feels very different to me than
It is
even
different.
2016.
It is different, but I would say, and I would not have thought to put it this way without what you just said. So now you tell me what you think of this. We are so much more sophisticated consumers of visual images and propaganda now than we were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
because of all the propaganda being thrown at us, and because of the degree to which we now know, and all of us, I'm sure, if we're online and we see a video that we like, we all think, is that AI? Or at least I do, right?
Yeah.
I'll see a video of like something cute about an animal, and I'll want to get engaged with it, and then I'll be like, that's probably fake. Well, that actually is the upside of all of the, what do they call it? AI slop. All of the
Slump.
stuff
Yeah.
that's floating around right now that is meaningless and actually gets in the way. That has made us smarter consumers of what's being thrown at us. Because what's being thrown at us by people with power and what's being thrown at us online, it's all the same, feels the same. It's stuff being thrown at us. So ironically, I'd say that part of this is a newer part of it, which is we are equipped to question what's coming down in a different kind of way. But the older part, I think what you're tuning into is, yeah, the response to that is whatever. Like, we're going to communicate with each other. We're going to do things together. We're going to work on the ground, on a ground level at this. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Well, and I wonder to what degree this moment has changed because people were so tired of the slick corporate um, news media that was driven by corporations, essentially. Somebody said to me, which I think is great, maybe I said this last week, that we should stop thinking of some of the major media outlets as news outlets and think of them as corporations that have a media section.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've got, we've had more recently is the rise of new ground up independent media people. And just so people know, I did not know this. Organizations like the Tennessee Holler, which is one of my favorites, they have merch, which it never occurs to me to go buy merch. It just never does. And you can support them by that. I was actually on something and somebody had a Tennessee Holler hat on, and I'm like, hey, where'd you get that? And I'm like, all of you independent people should be doing local merch. I mean, it should be doing merch because I'd wear that. And I think that is I think a sign, though, of not just a movement, although we're definitely a movement, but a reclaiming of the very basic tenets of a democracy that's run by its people rather than by its corporations and its very wealthy.
Right. And again, communication on a certain level. I'm laughing in part because like, I never thought that they, would have merchandise. So you're kind of in our world of like, I'm slightly older, but then you're saying merch. So then you're like, you totally blow that image. I never thought about merch.
Well, I all the time I get companies writing to me asking if I will, what am I going to do about my merch? And I'm like, ignore it. Like, I cannot tell you how much that's a direction I don't want to go.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
just because we don't have much time, we want people out on the streets, which is something I never thought I would say in my lifetime. I assume you have never gone to a protest.
Um, I
So
have gone to many protests, right? I have over the years. I will say, that I now consider myself an activist, and that is a sentence I never thought, like 15 years ago, maybe I would not have said it. But and all the protests I've been to, I don't know how many decades back it goes, but there was a period when I was in college. It would never have occurred to me to protest. I was a college student, like the people I teach now, and I was doing my education, and I was studying politics, right? And Ronald Reagan was running for president, and he came to the Claremont College campuses, and there was a big protest against him. There were people who showed up to support him, and then there were people protesting. They had hangers on the trees that said, kill me before I kill again, because he'd made these statements about abortions and trees. And anyway, it was a big protest, lots of people yelling, and he lost his cool. And he essentially did a version of "you kids" kind of at us. And I watched because this was all new to me. And I left there understanding, number one, what a protest was. Number two, how powerful it can be. We threw him off his game. A bunch of college students yelling, holding hangers. And it made the news because he lost his cool. And then it inspired in me, or made me understand better, the feeling of being in a group of people who are doing something that you believe in fervently, or are protesting in the name of something you believe in fervently. and how being part of that means something. That I understood protest in a way that I had never understood it before. This was maybe my freshman year in college, just by seeing it, which gets back to where we are today. Just by watching it, just by seeing it, just by seeing, I don't know, it wasn't huge, maybe 100 students yelling and signs and everything else. I just, I study history. I'd seen it, about other eras. But when you're standing in it or next to it and you're watching it, there's a power in that and a meaning in that just kind of blew me away.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. The only really major protest that I attended in Washington was the 1991 Mobilize for Women's Lives protest. I think
I
you were
was there
there.
too.
Yeah, we didn't know each other.
No.
But yeah, it was very cool. And I was there with friends from Oklahoma and friends from Maine who didn't know each other. And that was really kind of cool too, because you realize how the things that we are protesting about are universal. I mean, my friends from Oklahoma were Cherokee Seminole, and my friends from Maine were, as Maine as you can get. And they were there because they were concerned about the attacks on women's reproductive health care. And it's an amazing thing to be standing, as somebody said to me, with 100,000 other people with whom you disagree about virtually everything else other than the issue that you're protesting about. And everybody should do it, because it does make you realize just how many of us there are, and how many different ideas there are, and how the shared beliefs on one issue or another really do reach across every single other barrier. And that, maybe us being out in the streets more will help people look to the person next to them and go, oh, wow, you're not somebody I thought I would be on the streets with, but hey, you want a hot dog? So,
and absolutely. And even just, again, the idea that you're going to, if you're going to go out today, you're going to see all kinds of people saying all kinds of things with all kinds of signs and representing themselves in all kinds of ways that you may like and you may not like. And that's wonderful, because whoever you're out there with agrees fervently enough in what we're marching for, in marching in the name of democracy and marching to protest tyranny, basically. How revolutionary of me. That everyone out there believes that, to the extent that they're willing to go out into the street and do something about it. That's a visceral kind of understanding that this kind of day gives you, whether you're there or not, that this kind of day gives you. And no matter how many million people are there, right? We're going to immediately see it was 5 million. No, it was 12 million. No, there will be millions of people. And that's good. It's not the precise number that matters. What matters is millions of people stood up together and went out for this cause, regardless of anything else they agree or disagree about. They joined together for this. And as we were saying, Heather, you and I, before we started, they're doing it in London, they're doing it in Australia and New Zealand, they're all over the world.
America.
They are marching and saying, we're with you. So again, that's a visceral understanding of a lot of things. Democracy is one. The fact that we're all connected in one way or another, that's another. And that's also a powerful thing you get by taking part in this kind of protest.
Amen. You and I always reach back to history, but in this moment, Americans are making history. And they're making it in ways that nobody could have foreseen. A month ago, for me, that frog represented the radical right, Pepe the Frog. And now the protesters have taken the frog back. And that, you think about the ways in which, I hate to say it, Joanne, because I know you don't like this word, history is contingent. I mean, I'm kidding everybody, because that's Joanne's big line.
The people who watch my podcast are now laughing hysterically. I say it.
Exactly. But we're all doing it, and we don't know where it's going to lead, except that it's got to lead somewhere better than us losing our democracy. And when you look at the creativity and the incredible numbers of people turning out and their wide range of experiences and the frogs, you just think we're going somewhere good.
We're going somewhere good, even right now, just for the simple reason that we're going. But I am feeling so motivated and inspired by today, and excited to go take part. As you said before, we're making history. Whatever happens today, we're making history. And, you know, it's not often in your life that you know that a thing that you're doing is making history.
Amen.
Yes, lots of things that you do are going to add up to something huge. But to know that you're taking part in something that will have historic resonance, that people will remember and point to and say, wow, look what happened on that day. Look at the number of people who got together and stood up for their rights. That you can say of today.
Yeah. Be able to tell your great-grandchildren I was there.
Yeah. I know it
Well,
sounds hokey, but I believe all of this stuff.
yeah. Yeah. I was going to suggest that maybe you could show people what you're going to wear, but it's up to you. I love it. I'm sorry. I love it.
I thought about it before.
There you go. A perfect note on which to end this. Everybody get out there. Joanne, do your thing. Love you. And let's do today and then let's do tomorrow.
Indeed. Love you, Heather.
Take care, everybody. Let's go do this.
Bye.